1 second before the plane took off, I announced my divorce. My CEO husband, who was accompanying his mistress during childbirth, went berserk and chased me to the airport. Jiang Jiyuan, if you dare step out of this door, you will never be able to come back in this lifetime. Shun Xi's threatening voice still buzzes in my ears, but at this moment I am sitting in the VIP lounge of the International Departure Hall at Hongqiao Airport. In front of me a cup of iced Americano that had long since cooled. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window the huge wings gleam with a cold metallic luster under the blazing sun, and ground staff hustle through the final pre-flight checks. I lowered my head to glance at my phone. The screen shows it is exactly 10 o'clock in the morning, and there are only 10 minutes left before the flight to London departs. What is Shun Xi doing right now? I mocked myself with a wry smile, clicked on the profile picture I hadn't touched for a year in the circle. He had just posted a photo, his knuckles gripping a pale, delicate hand, the background the hospital delivery room's pale green sheets, with a caption of only 4 characters, mother and child safe. The scar in my heart, long since crusted over, seemed torn open again. Yet strangely it didn't hurt, only left a sense of relief and release. Taking a deep breath, I opened Weibo. As the wife of the president of the Shun Group, my account was low-key, but having accompanied Shun Xi to several charity galas, I had amassed hundreds of thousands of followers. Expressionless, I composed a post and attached 2 images, the already signed divorce agreement and our marriage certificate cut in half. The caption read, Mr. Shun Xi, the rest of this life is too long, I won't wait any longer. The divorce agreement has been sent, please check it. I wish you and your family nothing but unrest year after year. The moment I hit send, I could almost hear the sound of shackles shattering deep within my soul. Almost instantly my phone began vibrating. Wildly, Shun Xi called like a barrage of artillery, followed by Shun's parents, so-called socialite girlfriends and so on. I didn't pick up, I just quietly watched the screen flash with the contact name husband, and felt nothing but utter irony. 5 minutes later the lounge door was abruptly pushed open. An airport staff member rushed in with an anxious look. Miss Jiang, it's time for your boarding. I stood up, picked up my light travel bag, removed the SIM card from my phone and threw it into the trash bin. Meanwhile, in a premium maternity ward at Renari Private Hospital on the other side of the city, Shun Xi, who had been basking in the joy of becoming a father for the first time, was now staring rigidly at his phone screen. His special assistant, Chen Sen, didn't even bother to knock. He scrambled inside in a panic, his voice trembling uncontrollably. Mr. Shun, sir, something terrible has happened. Madam has released a divorce announcement and it's blown up all over the internet. Shun Xi's face turned pale instantly. He abruptly pushed away Lin Wei, who was clinging to him and acting coquettishly while asking to be spoon-fed porridge, so hard that she bumped against the headboard and let out a startled cry. A CI, what's wrong? Lin Wei clutched her stomach, her eyes instantly filling with tears. Shun Xi ignored her completely, his gaze locked onto the shredded photo of their marriage certificate, his breathing rapid and heavy. He knew that background all too well. It was the mahogany desk in his study. When did Jiang Jiyuan sign the papers? When did he prepare everything? He frantically dialed my number, but all he heard was a cold, mechanical voice. Sorry, the number you dialed is powered off. Chen Sen, check it for me. Shun Xi roared like a madman, his eyes bloodshot. Find out where she is. Shut down all information at every airport, high-speed rail station and port immediately. No media outlet is allowed to repost anything. President Shun, got it. Madam has booked CA 937, the flight to London. Departing in 10 minutes, the plane is already taxiing on the runway. Shun Xi was struck as if by lightning. Ignoring Lin Wei's screams behind him and the newborn's crisp cries, he dashed out of the delivery room like a madman, even knocking over a nurse's tray of medicine at the corridor corner. Jiang Jiyuan, you dare leave, you actually dare to really leave, he roared into the phone at Chen Sen while sprinting toward the elevator. Call airport management, have them stop that plane no matter how much it costs or what excuse you use, even if it's a fake terrorist attack drill, just stop it. His car sped wildly down the road, running 3 red lights in a row, the screech of brakes nearly tearing through the sky. Meanwhile, I had just fastened my seatbelt when the flight attendant's sweet voice came over the PA. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. Our plane is about to take off. Please turn off your mobile phones and all electronic devices. I closed my eyes, feeling the slight tremor of the aircraft. Once I thought Shinseai was my world. We were childhood sweethearts. And at 22, right after college graduation, we got our marriage license. Back then, the Shin family was on the brink of bankruptcy. I used every connection and resource of the Jiang family. Stayed by his side at business dinners, drinking toast after toast for him, even drank until I got a stomach perforation, just to secure his orders. He held me that night and said, "Jiyuan, I don't want anyone else in this life but you." But later, the Shun Group became the leading company in Jiangcheng. He became President Shun, admired by everyone, and I became the wife who could only leave a light on for him late at night. Then 2 years ago, Lin Wei appeared, the new secretary Shinseai had hired, young, gentle, with a trace of my younger self in her eyes. The day I found out Shinseai was cheating was exactly our 5th wedding anniversary. I secretly cooked a whole feast waiting for him, only to receive his WeChat message, "Working late tonight, don't wait up." Half an hour later, I saw Lin Wei's post on Moments, a blurry photo taken at Jiangcheng's most luxurious revolving restaurant, 2 wine glasses crossing, with the caption, "Meeting you is the most romantic surprise of my life." On the hand holding the glass, the ring finger wore a custom wedding band identical to mine. I didn't cause a scene, I just quietly ate every cold dish on the table, because I knew my dignity as Jiang Jiyuan would not allow me to tear things apart like a scorned woman. What I wanted was to knock him off his pedestal and make him taste real despair. A loud bang echoed faintly from outside the cabin. Shinseai's car had crashed into the guardrail at the airport departure level. He stumbled out of the car, having lost one leather shoe, his expensive suit wrinkled, and his tie hanging loosely around his neck. Frenzied, he rushed toward the boarding gate, only to be violently stopped by security. "Get out of my way, that's my wife, Jiang Jiyuan, you come back." He pointed at the Boeing 747 already accelerating down the runway, and howled in anguish. The Shun, a decisive and strategic titan in the business world, now looked as pitiful as a child who had lost his only toy. He watched the plane lift off, taking with it the sole ray of sunshine in his life. Vanishing deep into the clouds, he collapsed onto the cold floor. His phone flooded with news of the Shun Group's plummeting stock prices and thousands of abusive comments under the divorce announcement. Just then Lin Wei's call came in, her voice delicate and frail. "Azee, the baby's been crying. Where are you? Get lost." Shinseai snarled into the phone like a trapped beast, then smashed it into pieces. Meanwhile, high above at 30,000 feet, I gazed at the rolling sea of clouds outside the window, a genuine smile, the first in 2 years, spreading across my lips. "Shinseai, this is only the beginning. Did you think all I wanted was freedom? No, what I want is to watch you firsthand as everything you've painstakingly built crumbles piece by piece." At 30,000 feet, the cabin was so quiet that only the faint hum of the engines could be heard. Leaning against the window, I watched the city below shrink into fragmented puzzle pieces, and my mind involuntarily drifted back 2 years. The early signs of Shinseai's infidelity had appeared long before that celebration banquet. Back then, the Shun Group had just swallowed a rival company. At the victory banquet, Shinseai was in high spirits, and I stood beside him in a perfectly tailored chipao, basking in everyone's admiration. That was when Lin Wei, newly hired as a secretary, appeared before us carrying a tray. She accidentally splashed red wine all over my chipao, her face turning pale with fright, her doe-like eyes instantly welling up with tears as she apologized profusely. Shinseai frowned slightly at the time, took off his jacket, and draped it over my shoulders, saying in his usual thoughtful tone, "Jiyuan, go change in the lounge, I'll handle things here." I thought it was his special care for me, but I failed to notice the fleeting glint of pity and scrutiny in his eyes as he looked at Lin Wei. 3 months later, I began to catch a trace of perfume on the collar of Shinseai's shirt that didn't belong to me, that cheap, cloying scent of freesia. Nothing like the cool, woody fragrance I always wore. The moment I truly knew he was cheating came last winter. Shinseai claimed he had to go on a 3-day business trip to North City. I was homesick with a cold when my best friend sent me a short video taken at an obscure trendy dessert shop in North City. In the corner of the video, Shin Si was patiently wiping cream from Lin Wei's lips. Lin Wei was laughing brightly and, in full view of others, quickly pecked him on the cheek. Shin Si didn't flinch. Instead, he fondly tapped her on the nose. At that moment, the medicine bowl fell from my hand and shattered into countless sharp shards. I didn't call to confront him, nor did I make a scene. I knew Shin Si too well. Men like him have a deep-seated need for control and a hypocritical sense of morality. If I exposed him now, he would come up with 100 excuses, even turning it around to blame me for being paranoid. So I chose to wait, and began to discreetly track his finances, in order to maintain the image of a deeply affectionate husband. I've always held half of the family finances, but he doesn't know that I understand finance better than he thinks. I discovered that he secretly acquired a property in the suburbs, registered under Lin Wei's name. I also found that he used company contingency funds to arrange plum positions for a relative of Lin Wei's family. What disgusted me the most was that, 6 months ago one night, Shin Si came home exhausted, hugged me from behind, buried his head in my neck, and in a hoarse voice said, "If one day I'm tired, shall we move to Switzerland to settle there?" My heart is as calm as still water, yet my hands gently stroke his hair and I softly ask, "Why suddenly do you feel such sentiment about this?" "Nothing, it's just that in this circle, you're the most genuine and the one who puts me most at ease." Just 1 hour before he said these words, I had just intercepted the ultrasound photo Lin Wei sent him. The fetus was already 3 months along. While he kept a mistress and an illegitimate child outside, he came home to play the devoted husband, trying to keep me domesticated and placid. This extreme hypocrisy made me feel like I was sleeping beside a slick venomous snake every night. For this day I endured for an entire 6 months. First, I used the power I had in the name of a family trust to quietly strip away and convert the shares and real estate that belonged to me. During that period, Shin Si was busy accompanying Lin Wei to ensure the pregnancy and dealing with prenatal checks, leaving my financial maneuvers completely unguarded. He even thought I was studying these plans for the sake of the child to come, and he signed off a large sum, tens of millions, into my private account. "Do whatever you want, the Shin family can't treat you badly." He said this while rushing out to buy sour plums for Lin Wei. I watched his figure and silently whispered to myself, "Shin Si, the Shin family cannot treat me badly, because I am going to take away the thing you value most in this lifetime." The airplane's wings sliced through the thick clouds, jolting a bit, and my thoughts were pulled back to the last moment before boarding. It was the day before Lin Wei was due to give birth. Shin Si came home for the first time in ages, sat on the living room sofa smoking, his expression flustered amid the swirling smoke. "In the next few days I'll go out of town to discuss a big project, so I might not have time to check my phone. Be obedient at home. If anything comes up, contact Chen Sen." I knew he was going to accompany Lin Wei during the birth of her child. That was her first child, and he obviously felt both excited and nervous. I walked over, as usual, to fix his tie, my fingers brushing over his Adam's apple, and I could feel his instant stiffness. Perhaps guilt or remorse. "Shin Si." I fixed my gaze on his eyes, my tone frighteningly calm. "If you find out I deceived you, would you hate me?" He paused for a moment, then chuckled despite himself. Grabbing my hand, he kissed it and said, "What nonsense are you talking? You're so well behaved, how could you possibly deceive me?" "That's true." I smiled as I helped him into his suit jacket. "Then I wish you all the best." After he left, I cleared out all the jewelry and cash from the safe that very night. Those were the trophies he had given me over the years to ease his guilt. I also didn't forget to leave the already signed divorce papers on his study desk. Now, on the flight to a foreign land, I feel a lightness I've never known before. Shin Si must be going mad by now, don't you think? That happy family of his, built around a safe delivery for mother and child, was founded on betrayal and deception toward his own wife. Now I've torn away that illusion and laid his ugly deeds bare before the public. The board of the Shin Group isn't made up of fools. A scandal like this will trigger stock price fluctuations, and those old foxes will make his life hell. More importantly, a woman like Lin Wei, does she really love Shin Si? No, she loves the status of being Mrs. Shin and the wealth of the Shin family. Now that Shin Si's reputation is ruined and he's facing a huge divorce settlement, How much longer will his cozy little nest with a baby on the way truly last? I really look forward to the cabin announcements sounding again, reminding the flight attendants to prepare for landing. I adjust my seating position a bit. Pull out a pair of sunglasses from my bag and put them on. London's sunshine must be cooler than the river city's chill, which suits me just fine. When we landed at London Heathrow, a fine cold rain was falling. I pushed the luggage cart out of customs, the cold wind rushing into my collar, and my foggy mind instantly cleared. I fished a local SAM card I had prepared in advance from my portable bag and inserted it into my phone. As soon as it powered on, countless push notifications poured in like a tide. The first thing was an official statement from the Shun Group, using pallid diction to explain the president's private life as a pure misunderstanding, but in front of the wedding certificate I had torn into shreds. All PR tricks looked ridiculous. I snorted with a cold laugh, hailed a taxi, and spoke to the driver in fluent English. To Kensington. In Shun Ci's eyes, I'm just a canary that relies on him. Once away from the Shun family, I'd probably lose even the sense of directions east, west, north and south, but he forgot that before becoming Mrs. Shun, I was the Jiang family's carefully cultivated heir. In these 2 years, I've not only quietly divested assets, but also used his wandering affairs to revive several overseas trusts of the Jiang family that were on the brink of liquidation. Attaching them under my own name, I moved into a mansion already prepared for me, closed the door and blocked out all outside noise. I brewed a pot of strong coffee, sat by the fireplace and calmly reviewed the results sent from the homeland. Shun Ci would go crazy, which was already within my expectations. After returning empty-handed from the airport, he drove straight back to our marital home. Aunt Zhong said he smashed everything he could in the study, then collapsed to his knees at the redwood desk. Gripping the divorce agreement I had left behind in his hands, he thought that as long as he did not sign, the marriage would maintain its outward integrity, but he didn't realize that the agreement was only a decoy. The real killer was hidden in the lawsuit I mailed to the court. I had gathered evidence of the past 2 years showing his purchases of properties, vehicles, and large transfers for Lin Wei. That was an illegal transfer of marital assets. According to the law, not only must he share half of his wealth with me, but he must also return to Lin Wei everything he had given her intact. The phone screen suddenly lit up, showing an unfamiliar domestic number. I hesitated for a moment, then pressed answer. Jiang Jiyuan, you've really grown capable. Shun Ci's voice was hoarse, as if scraped raw with sandpaper, thick with alcohol and suppressed fury. You think running abroad solves everything? You think a Weibo post can cut ties with me cleanly? I traced the warm surface of my coffee cup, my tone steady and flat. Shun Ci, whether ties are cut cleanly is up to the law. Since you're not sober yet, let me remind you, Lin Weisheng's boy, the Shun family gaining a grandson is happy news, but if Shun's stock price hits the limit down right now, do you really think your parents will still see that child as a blessing? Heavy breathing came through the line. After a long pause he let out a bitter, self-mocking laugh. Are you threatening me, Jiang Jiyuan? You used to feel bad for half a day just stepping on an ant, and now you're threatening me with my company and my child. People change, Shun Ci, you taught me that. I cut him off, my gaze as cold as the rain outside the window. The least reliable thing in this world is feelings. The most solid thing is self-interest. That apartment in Emerald Central Court you bought for Lin Wei, I've already applied for asset preservation. That was Jiang family money, and the accounts of you using company reserves to pay off Lin Wei's brother's gambling debts, I've already sent those to the old board members. Do you still have the heart to talk about feelings with me now? A loud crash came from the other end, followed by Shun Ci's hysterical roar. Jiang Jiyuan, are you trying to destroy me? No, I'm just taking back what's mine. I hung up calmly and added the number to my block list. This was Shun Ci. Even now, he still saw himself as the victim, convinced my leaving was a betrayal, never once reflecting on how he had spent the past 2 years comfortably basking in my tenderness while promising a future to another woman in her bed. Early the next morning my lawyer sent an update. Lin Wei had caused an uproar at the hospital. She had thought that giving birth to a son would naturally secure her place in the Shun family mansion, but no sooner had she left the delivery room than the court summons and asset preservation notice arrived, her properties seized, her bank accounts frozen, Even the luxury car Shin Si-I had given her towed away. All that so-called devotion, faced with the erosion of real money, proved as fragile as a sheet of paper. At that high-end private hospital, Lin Wei threw a dramatic tantrum, ignoring her postpartum condition, clutching her baby and threatening to throw herself against the wall, demanding Shin Si-I give her an answer. Meanwhile, Shin Si-I was busy explaining the embezzled funds to the board, torn apart from both sides. I sit in a London cafe full of artistic atmosphere, flipping through live photos sent by Yenxing. In the photos, Shin Si-I sits on a bench outside the ward, hands stuffed into her hair, the once prized elegance gone, leaving only ruin and embarrassment. This is exactly what I want. Wasn't he after that child? Fine, I'll give him one, but the price he must pay is the turbulence of the entire Shin group and the half-life of reputation he built. Meanwhile, I start contacting domestic media. Since we're going all out, we must go all the way. I still have evidence that Lin Wei used her position as secretary to suppress colleagues and collect kickbacks. Shin Si-I wants to protect Lin Wei and the child. He can, but he must watch Shin's reputation completely collapse. I'm not in a hurry to return to the country. I'm doing very well here. Every day I go for a walk in Hyde Park, visit museums for exhibitions, or stay in the studio all day. No more late-night waiting, no more bedside lies. Even London's chilly weather now looks particularly charming. A week later, Chen Sen sent me a message, his tone full of pleading. Madam, Mr. Shin hasn't slept for 3 days. The company is in chaos. Miss Lin is staging a hunger strike again. Mr. Shin says that as long as you're willing to come back to discuss, he'll meet any terms you set and is willing to transfer all his properties to you. Just ask you to withdraw those pieces of evidence. I look at the message and raise my eyebrows slightly. All the properties and Shin's shares. You're underestimating me. What I want has never been those few plots of land, but for you to see with your own eyes your so-called perfect life gradually turn to ashes. I reply with 4 characters. See you in court. Putting down the phone, I push the window open and let the fresh post-rain air flood the room. I understand that Shin Si-I is probably still plotting ways to drag me back. After all, in his heart, I'm still Jiang Zhiyuan, the one who cannot live without him. But I will let him know how hard a heart a woman who has died once can be. Shin Si-I, this cat-and-mouse game has only just reached its climax. You must endure. Don't collapse so quickly. After all, back then when you stabbed me in the heart, I endured for a full 2 years. When people are in despair, they often unleash a near-obsessive frenzy. Shin Si-I's current state perfectly exemplifies this because I had rejected all of Chen Sen's mediation requests. Shin Si-I, after dealing with the mess left by the board of directors, actually flew directly to London, disregarding the fact that Lin Wei was still in her postpartum confinement. Using the transaction records from the credit card I had previously used, he precisely pinpointed my whereabouts. That twilight, I was sitting on the terrace pruning a pot of tulips when the iron gate outside the villa was pounded with a deafening force. I set down my scissors and walked over to check the monitor. On the screen appeared Shin Si-I's haggard, almost unrecognizable face. He wore a wrinkled trench coat, his stubble clearly visible, and his eyes were bloodshot. This was no longer the all-powerful President Shin who ruled over Jiangcheng. He looked more like a destitute gambler wandering the streets. Open the door, he yelled at the camera, his voice hoarse and trembling. I know you're in there. Let's talk, even if it's just for 10 minutes. I didn't open the door. I simply replied coldly through the intercom. Shin Si-I, trespassing on private property is a serious offense in the UK. If you have something to say, you can say it to my lawyer. Lawyer, other than talking about money with me right now, do you really have nothing else to say? He slammed against the main door with such force that the security monitor screen wobbled. Jiang Jiyuan, 2 years of our relationship, is that really worth nothing more to you than those shares and properties? Listening to this absurd accusation, I laughed in disbelief. Shin Si-I, you've got it wrong. It's not that all I see is money, it's that aside from money, there's nothing left about you worth a second glance. As for feelings, when you were in Lin Wei's bed 2 years ago, promising her a home, why didn't you think about our relationship back then when you bought her Hermes, a big diamond ring, a villa? Why didn't you stop to think that was our marital property? Shin Si-I fell into a dead, heavy silence. After a long moment, he finally pleaded in a low voice, I know I was wrong. What happened with Lin Wei was just an accident. I felt exhausted. You're too perfect, so perfect that being around you makes me feel like I have to be on edge all the time. Lin Wei is different, she depends on me, makes me feel needed. Jiyuan, I never wanted a divorce, I swear. The kind of textbook cheating husband rhetoric made my stomach churn. So because I'm too perfect, you had to find someone flawed to restore your so-called balance. I curled my lips in mockery. Shen, don't dress up your selfishness and greed as helplessness. The reason you're coming to me now isn't because you love me, it's because you've realized Lin Wei is a bottomless pit, because Shen Group's shareholders are putting on the pressure, and because you know that without me, you can barely even maintain a dignified life. That's not true, he shouted into the surveillance camera. That child Lin Wei gave birth to, if you don't like it, I can send it away, I can give it up for adoption, or pay Lin Wei to take it and never let it appear in front of you again. Just come back, can't we start over? My hand gripping the walkie-talkie tightened slightly. To salvage his so-called dignified life, he was even willing to treat his own flesh and blood as a bargaining chip. Such ruthlessness sent a chill through me. Just then Shen Xi's phone rang. Since he was close to the walkie-talkie, I could clearly hear Lin Wei's hysterical cries on the other end. Shen Xi, where are you? The child has a high fever. The doctor says it's neonatal pneumonia. It's serious. Come back now. Are you with that bitch Jiang Jiyuan again? Have you abandoned us? Shen Xi's expression shifted dramatically in an instant, a twisted mix of guilt, annoyance, struggle, and fear. He looked at the surveillance camera, then at his phone like a sinner being roasted over a fire. Go away, stop bothering me. He shouted into the phone and hung up abruptly. Shen Xi, go. I spoke calmly with a hint of pity in my tone. Your new life is calling you. That child is innocent, but it is also his misfortune to have a father like you. I'm not leaving if you don't agree to come back with me. I'll die here today. He, like a hoodlum, crouched at the door, gripping the iron bars hard. I stopped paying attention to him, directly cutting the power. The source pulled down the heavy blackout curtains. That night, Shen Xi really kept vigil in the rain, while I, in the bedroom on the second floor, listened to the occasional intense coughing from outside the window, my heart as stubborn as a rock, and slept soundly through the night. The next morning, when I opened the window to breathe the fresh air, the front gate was already empty. The neighbor told me that in the early hours, an ambulance had passed by and carried away an Asian man who was physically exhausted and feverish. Immediately after, Chen Sen's appeal email arrived in my inbox again. Madam, Mr. Shen is hospitalized in London. Miss Lin on the domestic side seized the opportunity of Mr. Shen's absence to privately sell some paintings and antiques in Mr. Shen's study, and even tried to break into the Shen residence with the child, but was driven out by Mr. Shen and Mrs. Old. Now Miss Lin is at the top floor of Shen's building, making a scene and threatening to jump, demanding Mr. Shen appear immediately to grant her status. Reading these words, I could almost imagine the chaotic scene. Women like Lin Wei, once they realize the sponsor wants to back out, retaliate like a mad dog. Her only trump card is that child, so she will squeeze the remaining value from the child at any cost. And Shen Xi, thinking she could maneuver both sides, ended up playing with fire and burning herself. He wants to feel needed, and now Lin Wei has given him the most extreme, the most suffocating need. I replied to Chen Sen with 5 Chinese characters, don't send me any more. The rain in London stopped and the air carried a muddy sweet scent of earth and green grass. I rejected all of Chen Sen's emails and even changed my contact information, leaving only a professional to handle the divorce matters domestically with full authority. However, I underestimated Shen Xi's stubbornness, and I underestimated a man's self-destructive tendency when he loses all control. 3 days later, Shen Xi appeared in front of my villa. He didn't crash the door in a frenzy. Instead, he sat quietly on the steps, clutching a document tightly in his hand. His complexion was no longer the angry flush, but a pale grey with a hint of deathliness. I had intended to turn a blind eye, but he spoke into the intercom. Shiyuan, do you also not want the Jiang family's old house? I pushed the door open and looked down at him coldly. Shen Xi lifted his head and gave a self-deprecating smile, handing me the documents in his hand. That was the Jiang's mortgage contract for their property in the old southern city residence. So 6 months ago my parents, due to investment losses, had borrowed funds from the Shen family. Shen Ci at the time acted magnanimously, not requiring collateral, but just yesterday he used his position as CEO to force the Jiang family to repay the debt immediately, or else he would reclaim the old residence. Shen Ci, you really have impressed me. I clutched the stack of papers, my knuckles turning pale, to push me back. You even resorted to such despicable means. You drove me to madness. He stood up abruptly, and because he rose too quickly, his body swayed a bit. After you left, the company fell into chaos. Lin Wei caused a fuss that everyone knew about. The shareholders want to oust me. I have nothing left. Shi Yuan, I only have you if you withdraw the suit. If you return with me to issue a joint statement saying it was all a misunderstanding, I will return the old Jiang family house to my father-in-law immediately, and we can live like before. Like before, I seem to hear a colossal joke. You with Lin Wei's son, me sitting beside you as Mrs. Shen, acting out the most nauseating family melodrama in all of Jiang City. Shen Ci, do you think I'm despicable, or do you think you're especially charming? That child, Lin Wei, has already taken him away. Shen Ci's voice suddenly turned sharp. That day on the rooftop she was making a scene just for money. I gave her a sum of money to make sure she would never return to Jiang City in this life. All obstacles removed, really. He stretched out his hand, wanting to touch my face, and I recoiled with a look of disgust. Shen Ci, you're being naive. I looked directly into his eyes. Do you really think someone like Lin Wei will just back off after taking the money? Do you think that child is something you can erase with a single check? What you're doing right now is legally called coercion and bribery. This mortgage contract will only become another piece of evidence for me to petition the court for compulsory divorce and asset division. Are you really determined to destroy both of us? His gaze turned increasingly sinister. I won't be destroyed, and neither will the net. I looked at him calmly. Shen Ci, look at yourself. You're willing to hurt the Jiang family, people who once helped you, just to keep me. Is that what you call love? This is nothing but your pathetic possessiveness at work. You just can't accept that a woman who once obeyed your every whim could now trample you underfoot so decisively. Just then, Shen Ci's phone rang wildly again. This time, instead of hanging up, he answered with trembling hands. The voice on the other end wasn't Lin Wei's, it was his father's enraged roar. Shen Ci, what the hell are you doing? That crazy woman Lin Wei dumped the kid at the company reception desk and disappeared. The police are now investigating for child abandonment, and they're demanding a paternity test. Shen Corporation's stock has hit the limit down. Get your ass back here now. The phone slipped from Shen Ci's hand and shattered against the stone steps, the screen cracking completely. With it, his last shred of feigned dignity collapsed. He had thought he could buy off the past with money, but never imagined Lin Wei would be more ruthless than him. Lin Wei knew Shen Ci was already trapped in quicksand, that money was just her last big payoff, and that child had become her tool for revenge against Shen Ci's abandonment. Jiang Jiyuan, he looked at me, tears streaming down his stubbled cheeks in large drops. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong now. Please save me, okay? If you'll just help me get through this trust crisis, I'll walk away with nothing. Watching him kneel on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, I felt no pleasure, only a profound, bone-deep exhaustion. Shen Ci, I really did love you once, I said softly, the first time I had admitted that since leaving the country, but the Shen Ci I loved was the young man who, even when we had only one steamed bun left in the early days of our startup, would give me most of it. Not President Shen, the man full of lies who could use his own flesh and blood as bargaining chips. The mess you're in now wasn't caused by me, it's the accumulation of everything you've sown over the years. Lin Wei is your cause, the company's deficit is your effect, and the mortgage on the Jiang family home is your debt. I stepped back and prepared to close the door. As for the Jiang family's old house, I will redeem it myself with the assets I get from the divorce. That is my home, and it no longer has anything to do with you. The abyss, the abyss. He was frantically beating on the door, and his cries sounded unusually desolate on the cold streets of London. I returned to the living room and turned off all the lights. In the darkness, I sat on the sofa and listened to the cries outside gradually quieting. I knew at that moment, Shen Ci truly realized, what he had lost was not merely a wife, but the only bright spot in his life. He would guard that crumbling company and guard the child abandoned by his biological mother, spending the second half of his life through endless lawsuits and public scorn. Half a year later, I stood by the Thames facing a brand new exhibition poster. The poster bore no verbose text, only a painting titled Pupa Breaks. The center of the image is a crack of deep red, from which brilliant starlight shines forth. This was my first solo exhibition after leaving Shensi. The domestic divorce proceedings had long been settled. At Shensi's most desperate moment, when his reputation had plummeted, my legal team struck precisely because Shensi had long-term illegal transfers of assets during the marriage and even used company funds to support a lover. The court ruled him the wrongdoer. I obtained 15% of Shun Group's shares, along with the old family residence belonging to the Jiang family and a substantial monetary compensation. As for Shensi, he was not doing well now. Shun Group had suffered a severe blow from the scandal, and to fill the deficits and pay my compensation, he had to liquidate most of his real estate. The most ironic thing was that the child abandoned by Lin Wei in the company was eventually sent back to the Shun family. Shensi's parents, although they despised Lin Wei, cherished this sole grandchild. What about Shensi? Chen Sen occasionally sent brief messages. President Shun rarely comes home now, spends every day shut up in his office, drinking heavily, working overtime, aging rapidly, and I've heard his hair has turned half gray. Whenever he sees a child with a few features similar to Lin Wei, he doesn't recall the joy of becoming a father for the first time, but how he personally ruined the woman who loved him most, how he walked step by step into Lin Wei's gentle trap. That child has become the sharpest thorn in his life for the rest of his days, stabbing his conscience every moment. Miss Jiang, someone sent flowers, no signature. The gallery assistant walked over and handed me a bouquet of exquisitely wrapped freesia. I took the flowers, rummaged through the flowers. There was no card, but I knew who sent them. Shensi used to say that this kind of flower is cool and aloof, yet would suit me. I stared at the bouquet for a second, then casually threw it into the nearby trash can. No need, these flowers have a short bloom period and will wither easily, I said lightly. At that moment my phone received an email from Shensi. Only a short passage. Ji Yuan, today I redeemed that red wooden desk from the old house, intended to send it to you, but I found that I no longer have the right to know your new address. I've been dreaming of that day at the airport. If I had stopped you a second earlier or never gone to that maternity house, would the ending have been different? I owe you the word sorry for too long. I looked at the screen, my heart unmoved. The cheapest thing in a person is this belated affection. When he hurt me, when he stayed warm beside Lin Wei, when he used the Jiang family's old house to threaten me, he never thought of sorry. Now that everything cannot be redeemed, he begins to pursue this tragic self-mongering. I did not reply. I went straight to report and block. The exhibition proceeded smoothly, and at night I walked alone on the streets of London, the street lamps stretching my shadow long. Passing by a shop window, I saw a white wedding dress on display inside. The image of me walking toward Shensi in a wedding dress 5 years ago suddenly resurfaced. At that time I thought it was the start of happiness. Now looking back, it was just an illusion. Now I wake up every day to practice painting, afternoons to run the gallery business, occasionally invite 1 or 2 friends to go out on a countryside sketching trip. No longer tallying his footsteps to the clock, no longer looking for the traces of his betrayal in every little detail. My life belongs to me alone at last. End of story.